Mishmash! Kitbash Corner!
Hey, today we're doing another episode of the Space Marine Kitbashing series, if it's even a series at this point. But I wanted to do something a little different. The Space Marine Heroes line was first released in Japan in 2017, but were later released to the rest of the world, and now we have some pretty cool pushfits. Some people don't like them, but I honestly think they're pretty cool. However, the first line consisted primarily of firstborn Space Marines. And honestly, these are probably the best proportioned Space Marines in my humble opinion. I'll go into more detail later on in the video, but unfortunately these models are a little hard to come by. Sort of. The Space Marine Adventures box sets feature most of these models. Primarily, these are available at Barnes & Noble, but they're actually quite cheap on Amazon. I ended up getting a box, and I'm going to be kitbashing these guys, as that's kind of what the point of the video is. Yeah, anyway, before we get into all that good stuff, however, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, hype the video, share with a friend, and if you really dig it, consider becoming a channel member. For just $3 a month, you get to see my videos early, and for $5, you get access to a weekly Q&A stream in which I'll showcase your models. You'll also have access to exclusive roles and channels within the Mishmash Discord, and above everything else, it just really helps me out. I want to say a huge thank you to my channel members. You guys are amazing. And if you want to help the channel even further, use my affiliate links in the description to help yourself to amazing hobby products from Wargames Atlantic, Galeri, and Golden Maple respectively. And make sure to check out the core pre-orders and use that discount code. But enough of the promotional stuff. Let's actually talk about the box. So, as far as the main differences between this box and the original Space Marine Heroes line, are these Technicolor sprues, of which I think are kinda charming. As for the actual difference between the Space Marine Heroes and the original Firstborn sets, there is one key difference that really does make them stand apart, something that I think the Horus Heresy line has done quite well with. That is 100% just having longer and better proportioned legs. The reason the Firstborns, and especially the Firstborn Mark IVs, look so squat is this off-to-the-side stance. Now, one of the few positives a lot of people had for the Primaris line is they had better proportions, which, yeah, they do. But the thing is, I like a little bit of cartooniness with my 40k. It's a grimdark setting, but it's also a ridiculous setting. I've talked about this plenty of times on the channel, and I did a Firstborn Kitbash previously, but I figure I'd just give a little flavor and background. But I've done enough yapping, let's actually get to the kitbashing. Now, you might be asking yourself, why am I kitbashing these guys? Because I physically cannot allow myself to build something just from the sprue anymore. I can't help it, it's like a drug. But for our first model, we have the Blood Angel Marine. The tech marine, I guess, of the squad. I quite like the original design with the Ospec, but I decided to go kinda boring with this figure, to be honest. I love the tactical look of the Mark VI Marines from the Horus Heresy line, so I just gave him some arms from the Mark VIs and attached it to the main body. I would have gone full classic with this Marine, giving him maybe a Godwin pattern bolter, but I'm a sucker for the Umbra pattern. I like really old school bolters. As for his helmet, I decided to go with a Mark VII. This one has always been a favorite of mine, mostly because I think the grills being these studs always looked really interesting. Very Stormtrooper-like. Also, you might notice that I actually did attach the incorrect arms for this figure. It would have fit normally, but I didn't have the right bolt gun, so I had to fill in the gap between the wrist and the gun using some sprue goo. As for his left pauldron, I decided to attach one from the Dark Angels biker kit. This was purely because I had plans to freehand something, but I don't 100% know what that might be. I actually do have an idea, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As for his other pauldron, I'm a sucker for the Mark VI, so I gave him a studded pauldron. Is it my bread and butter? Of course it is. It's because it looks cool. Now for his power pack, I decided to do something a little different. I ended up using one from the Grey Knights kits, and I would slice off the Inquisition symbol and smooth it out in case I wanted to attach any decals. I could have sliced off a skull, which would have fit perfectly in place, but I figured creating a little bit more negative space would allow me to have a little bit more fun with the painting. This bit and the Dark Angels bit really brings out a little bit more unique flavor to this guy, and now that he's all kitbashed, you'll probably notice that I did not paint this guy. Yes, I decided to prime each of these figures as multicolors similar to how they arrive in the box. I am 1,000,000,000% comment baiting you guys to pick out chapters for me to paint these guys as. Though I did pick base colors that aren't entirely in line with the base box, I figured it would be kind of fun. This guy, admittedly, I do have a specific chapter that I would like to paint him as, but I'm always open to suggestions. And also feel free to comment on what you think I might be painting him as. Ooh, mystery. All in all, I've always had an appreciation for the basic tactical marine, hence why I really wanted to build this guy first. And I'm quite happy with him. But we have 4 more figures to get to, so let's get to the next figure. Now the next figure, being the Imperial Fist of the group, is actually a Devastator. I've never really talked about this on the channel before because I've never kitbashed him, but I really love Devastator armor. Their armor was always much more unique, not just because of the heavy grav boots, but those are awesome of course. It just has kind of a burly Mark V vibe to it. And I love when Space Marine armor is rather barren with just a skull or gems. Side note, why don't Space Marines have gems anymore? They're so cool looking. And I know the Eldar have the gems and that's part of their look now or whatever, but man, bring them back. Okay, no more spurging. Yeah, Devastator, as I was saying. I ended up clipping off this guy's right arm as I wanted to kind of de-Devastator him, which was kind of a weird decision now that I think of it. But I wanted to go for kind of an Iron Handsy successor feel to him. The first thing I did was add a Power Fist, because if you know me, I love me a Power Fist. This one is one of the Horus Heresy Power Fists, which is a little shrimpy in size compared to the old ones, but it's still a Power Fist nonetheless. For his first pauldron, I decided to give him one of the new Mark II pauldrons. I really like these. They're really not that much different from a typical Mark VII, but that little extra bit of detail really brings out a little bit more on the model, and gives just a little bit more detail for trim and a little bit of weathering to stand out. As for his left hand, I decided to give him yet another one from the Mark VI set. I'm essentially just using the typical Space Marine Sergeant build from the Horus Heresy line, because I'm giving him the left-handed plasma pistol too, but we'll do something more interesting with it, I promise. And just for the sake of uniformity, I gave him yet another Mark II pauldron. Could have done something a little different, it wouldn't hurt, but I like the symmetry of it. As for the left-handed plasma pistol, I decided to slice off some of the details to add a little bit of extra tech to it. Again, like I said, I wanted to go for an Iron Handsy look, so I ended up slicing off some of the scopes from one of the Infiltrator's bolt carbines. It's very high-tech looking, and it doesn't even really look like it would be a good idea to attach these bits to an active coil, but they're the Iron Hands, or a successor. They probably know how to engineer that safely. Or they don't, and they don't care. It doesn't matter. If his arm blows off, we'll just replace it with a robot arm. As for his helmet, I decided to use one from the Deathwatch kit that is now extinct. Damn, another amazing Firstborn kit that's gone the way of the dodo. Really is a shame. This set came out not too long after I got into the hobby, and I was all over these guys. I know the new models are cool, but I don't know. This one always has a special place in my heart. As for other bits I attached to the figure, I ended up giving him an extra purity seal just over the area where the peg would fit into the heavy bolter. He didn't have any on him to begin with, so I felt it was a good way of kind of covering over a bald spot. Plus, I enjoy painting purity seals. As for the final detail of the model, I ended up slicing off an antenna from one of the Infiltrator's helms, as the original antenna to this figure was clipped off. I'm not really sure why, but I really like how this looks, as I love this sharp antennae. I really hope it doesn't break off, but I guarantee you if he takes a tumble it will, but it still looks cool. And overall, I think this guy might be my favorite of the set. I really enjoy painting Iron Hand successors to begin with. I mean, that's no secret. But I just really like the overall build. Part of this is that I basically just stole an established pose that is kind of a hallmark of the new Horus Heresy era models, but I think it works especially well in this figure because of the crested boot. There's a bit of a swagger to the pose, and I'm really excited to paint this guy. Hell, I have an idea. Pick a weird Iron Hand successor for me to paint this guy as, and I'll probably go with it. But let's be real, I could talk about how much I like this guy all day. Let's get to the next figure. Now the next model is the Flamer of the group, and is essentially just a regular old salamander. However, I think this guy has the most unique armor type in the original box set. A Mark IV helmet and some pretty interesting custom livery. The studded leg is utterly spectacular. However, for this guy specifically, I decided to kind of make him the devastator of my little group here. The first step I wanted to do was attach Mark II arms, and I would supply him with a Phobos pattern heavy bolter from the vintage Mark III kit. I love the classic heavy bolter, but I'm always a sucker for this one because I like that it's just a regular bolt gun with nothing on the top and everything on the bottom. I don't know why, it just makes sense to me and it's really easy to attach. And I've always appreciated it because I like the underslung design and the huge drum mag. You'll probably notice too, I ended up actually having to slice off a regular Mark VII hand to fit on the actual bolt gun. More specifically, the left arm. The Mark IIs don't have any grabby hands as they just simply attach to the bolt guns. For his pauldrons, I went rather simple. I just used some Mark VI smooth pauldrons, which felt a little lazy. I kind of wish I didn't do this and I attached a little bit more to him, but I think it would be fun to add in some freehand. As for his helmet, I actually just used one from the base kit. This aggressive Mark VIII errant helm from the Space Wolf is just perfect. And I decided to really make him have a scavenger look with a Mark VI power pack. This guy truly is an amalgamation of almost every single armor type, ranging from some of the oldest to some of the newest. I've always felt that this is a key element to Space Marines, at least up until 8th edition. I've always felt Space Marines look their best when they don't look anything alike. Even the basic tactical Marine should have his own story. These guys are knights, they're monks, and unless they're new initiates, I think they should all have their own unique flavor. I'm not really sure what I want this guy to be. He is yellow, but who knows, I might change my mind later. There's quite a few yellow Space Marine chapters I really like, so it could be any one of them or none of them at all. I also think it's just funny that I made the heavy bolter still yellow even though he's not the same figure. Now the next figure is probably my least unique one in the set, mostly because the Pushfit design is just too cool to pass up. The Space Wolf of the kit has a great pose, and has a lot of really cool armor designs. However, I think adding just a few dashes of my own taste and flavors to him will make him all the more fun. Though the base figures are designed to be basic tactical Marines that can be applicable to any Space Marine chapter, I first decided to add in a Blood Angels power pack from the Tactical Squad. Again, man did they do my Blood Angels dirty. Keep your eyes out for a future video, by the way. As for his helmet, I decided to use one from a very unique character, this being the Space Marine Centurion from the Horus Heresy line. I'm also currently kitbashing this figure for another future video, but I was left with the half-helmed face, and I really like this head. And I think it fits the vibe of just about every single Blood Angels chapter, so I thought it was a good fit. As for his right arm, I'm keeping the base arm, dude. There's no changing that. A small pocket knife that is the equivalent of a proper cleaver is always going to be badass. However, for his offhand, I decided to give him a basic arm from the old Tactical Squad kit, and I would give him a plasma pistol. I, for some reason, have just an excess amount of plasma pistols. I don't know why. I wish I had more regular old bolt pistols. That is a bit that I am slowly but surely running out of. For his pauldron and the finishing touch to the model, I just mirrored it using a Mark VII pauldron. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I did kind of want to add a Blood Angel one, but that totally shoehorns him into one specific chapter, no matter how you slice it. But I don't know, there are so many Blood Angel successors that you guys want me to paint on the channel. I kept the red coloring to be ambiguous, so I could shade it any way I want it to, and I could always just tinge it down a different way, but I know I want him to be a Blood Angel successor. Hey, that's another coin in the jar of simple kit bashes are just as good as elaborate ones. Speaking of elaborate kit bashes, the final Marine is upon us. The final Marine of the group is supposed to be an Ultramarine. Well, I guess in the box he is. But I've never been a fan of this figure because I used to hate Ultramarines. I'm over that now. And to really add on to this guy, I decided to kind of make him a full-fledged veteran. The first thing I did, like with the previous figures, was cut down the arms and smooth them out. Of the figures that have the built-in pauldrons or side pauldrons, this one was probably the easiest to slice it off. In fact, it probably wouldn't be that hard to just clip an arm to size and attach it to the pauldron, but I have more elaborate plans. The first thing I did was actually attach a pre-assembled bit, this being a sheathed sword and a veteran pauldron from the Horus Heresy Command Squad, and I believe just a Primaris kit. Considering he had a lanyard on his main torso, one on the pauldron felt very befitting. This actually fit in quite nicely. The only element that really made this difficult was he does have grenades almost precisely where the sheath sword will go, but a couple snips here and there and I was good to go. As for his right arm, I simply just used the same one from the base kit, however with the left arm now in a more relaxed position, the right arm is now the dominant arm in the action. In the previous build, he has a chainsword rising to the sky, so I thought it would be fun to simply give him a bolt pistol and aim it at the enemy. Little things like this, it's why I love kitbashing so much. One little change completely changes the direction of an entire figure. Now, as for his helmet, since this guy already kinda has an Ultramarines look to him, I decided to go with a Corvus helm with laurels. At this point, I know that he kinda looks like Dollar Store Malum Cato, but I'll go further to really distinguish him. The next bit I decided to attach was one of the Black Templar capes, and I actually sliced down the little bits to allow it to fit a little bit better, but this was kind of a mistake. I should have sliced it on the left side, but the right side there was really no need to, as this area is far easier to see once I attach the power pack, of which is another one of the Pushfit bits. I thought the Salamander power pack felt befitting, very ornate. However, to alleviate how awkward the cape looked, I decided to use some sprue goo, and I used a little too much. It was kind of a disaster, and I had to do it off camera, but once I globbed it in the right places, it looked quite nice. It does look a little ambiguous, though you're probably not going to be looking at this portion of the model anyway, so I was happy with it. And with this figure finally finished, I don't know why I made him purple. This is maybe an oversight on my part. I just decided to do them as multicolors, but yeah, I don't know what I was thinking with that. Actually, the more I look at him, the more he seems reminiscent of my Imperial Stars kitbash I did with Lich. But maybe I'll stick with the purple, maybe I'll strip it and redo it, who knows. What I do know is I really like the pose of this figure, and I'm really happy with how he turned out. The base figure already is a sergeant, but he does have a little bit more decorative elements to him that kind of allow me to really build upon that. So by proxy, I was allowed to get away with a little bit more bombastic kitbashing with this guy, but he's still relatively simple. I think he can fit into just about any chapter. Only thing I would say kinda limits him is the laurels, but I don't know. All in all, I'm happy with him, and I'm happy with the rest of the figures. You know, I might actually just pick up another box of these. I mean, when it comes down to it, they're just so damn cheap and they're fun to play with, so why not? And maybe I'll actually play the base game with them, who knows? Also, the dice that comes with the set is really adorable. But hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was definitely a little bit of Space Marine slop, but I'm always gonna enjoy kitbashing these guys. But hey, by the time this is up, I'll be at LVO. So if you come by the Zombie Smith booth, I'll likely be there. Also filming a video with Mr. Bones there that I'm really excited to show you guys, but for now I've definitely been flapping my beak enough for one video. So like always, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, share with a friend, and remember to mishmash, kitbash, and paint some fantastic miniatures. And you're gonna. I promise. See ya.